Moderating this workshop is a dear colleague of mine, a person who I deeply trust, a classmate since medical school, Dr. Usmle, family medicine resident at Texas Tech, Texas, USA. Dr. Usmle.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you at International Exhibition and Conference on Higher Education. It's my pleasure to moderate the panel. My name is Usmle. I am a senior family medicine resident at Texas Tech University, demonstrator at Al University. I worked at Kaplan Medical, Chicago, for about a year and a half. I was working as a teaching assistant and advisor. I was part of the teaching team. I participated in teaching Usmle Step 1 and Usmle Step 2 clinical skills. We are happy to have you today, and we are honored to have our guests. And we are pleased to have Dr. Saggaf, the Director of Medical and Health Science Department at Saudi Arabian Cultural Mission. Our panel will be about United States medical license examination and residency fellowship training in the United States. Basically, our panel this afternoon, to start with introduction of the panelists. Then we will have Dr. Samara Saggaf. She will give us a brief overview about the result of the match of this year. Each speaker will have 20 minutes for a presentation. At the end, we will have more than 20 minutes. We'll be sure to answer your questions. Kindly write down your questions, and you would ask our guest at the end of each presentation. They're gonna save like 5 minutes at the end to answer your questions. But if he couldn't do it, we would do it at the end, as I told you. With that being said, let me start introducing our guest. I will start by introducing Ms. Eleanor Fitzpatrick. She is the Director of Exchange Visitor Sponsorship Program. Dr. Rodney Young. He is a professor and regional chair, Department of Family Medicine, Texas Tech University. Dr. Barry Richardson. Dr. Richardson is a professor of neurology and neurological surgery. Program director of neurology residency program at George Washington University. And finally, the last but not the least, Dr. Faiz Bora. Dr. Bora is Chief Thoracic Surgery, Director of Thoracic Surgery Research and Thoracic Surgical Oncology. Dr. Bora is Associate Program Director, General Surgery. He is Associate Professor of Surgery, Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. Let's welcome Dr. Samara Saggaf, please.
Yes, please. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, I would like to congratulate our match students. Can you stand up? I know that some of you are here. Can you stand up, please? Jirad, Abdurrahman, Nasir. So this is our result, fruitful result for this year. I would like to talk about a little bit about the cultural bridges and educational bridges between Saudi Arabia and US nations. And this has been not successfully done without educations and without the fruitful affiliations and communications between two program directors or students or SACAM. I think we have a lot of numbers of scholarship all over the world. We have more than 150 all over the world, and only in US we have 83,000. My department, it's only 4,600 students. I start with 800, and then in 4 years, we not replicate or duplicate, I don't know how many you can say. ERAS applications, all physicians, that they will apply to the match. I take this example to give the, our experience, how we did match the students, why we did match them, what is going on, why since many, many years there is 0, the maximum number which have been matched was 3 in the previous year. And maybe the ECFMG Illinois can concentrate on the number of students that have ECFMG certifications as a Saudi and as J1 research or J1 residency clinical applications. So the ERAS, it's a complicated process and needs a lot of efforts done by everybody. It's not only by Samar al-Saggaf or by Saudi Arabian Culture Missions. It's done by a lot of effort from everybody, from the minister, from the ministry, from Dr. Muhammad Al-Isa, from me, from the students, the US University, ECFMG, ECGME, all the one who participate to get the success of ERAS. So this is my model. I create that. In the experience that match is having 3 icons: the knowledge, the skills, and the manner and ethics. So we have to bridge our students. Our outcome from the university, they are excellent. I can tell you that you can do a lot of success story. And we did it this year, and we come to that at the end. But we lack some of the disciplines. We lack some of the skills. We need to know the culture, to know the educational process that is there in US. And if you know something, and you want to bridge your competences and your skills to be competitive as the others when they apply. Around 50,000 applications, 40 to 50,000 applications every year to ERAS from every part in the world. And there is only between 23,000, I think maximum 24,000 seats are there in ERAS every year. So they usually change in numbers, but it's around that. So how can my students will be competing for all these numbers? So we have to prepare them, to have to bridge them, and we have to let them very competitive. Knowledge by what? How can I know your knowledge? You are a graduate from medical school. What is it? Usmle, step 1. So shoot for the better. Better is high score of Usmle. It will open a lot of doors for you. The selection criteria coming from there. Sometime in the selection criteria, maybe the program director doesn't know you. He see that 230, 240 above, the applications will be accepted. Below, that will be rejected automatically. So be careful about your Usmle, and I am advising anyone is preparing for Usmle, just Usmle. I don't advise for any other, especially in our students, because we are not well prepared. So concentrate on Usmle. Don't say to me, I will do research, I will do master, I will do, you will not do it. I have example. They didn't get a good score. I need a good score. So this is the first icon. You are working on yourself and working to get into the ERAS. Skills. Skills usually by applications. How you apply, when you apply, كيف الapplications بتاعتك, what are you doing in your resume, how many volunteer work you did, how many publications, research, all these recommendations that everybody recommend your skill, you work with them. So this is the part that the match is measuring that. Then the manner and ethics, which is usually happens by interview and recommendations. They can see how much manner and skills you have through the interview. A lot of preparations. And maybe all the students like Abdurrahman or Muhammad or Tirad or Faris, or they can tell you how much preparation we prepare our students. But still, you have to do your extra miles. You have to do your efforts. It's not only SACAM. It's not only the use. For some time of the students said, the program director didn't give me any duty. So ask him, what is my duty? Go. Be prepared. Be the first one to be there. Give ideas. This is you have to understand the culture that you can be mubadir, creative. You do your extra mile. I can tell you that SACAM is successfully cooperates and pleased to have some of the non-profit organizations which help us. We cannot do everything. أنا Samar السقاف, I cannot answer each single questions. So you have mentor, you have Saudi MD in USA, we have Nasser Al-Jihani, the founder, we have the Saudi clubs, we have a lot of non-profit organizations, not only in medicine, we have it in nursing, we have it in dental, we have a lot of groups that they willing to help. ودائما نتذكر, I would, excuse me to say it in Arabic, دائما نتذكروا زكاة العلم نشره. إذا ما زكيت عن علمك ونشرته والمعلومة اللي أعطيتها ليك, يعني لما واحد يسألك أنت كيف متجت, كيف سويت, إيش عملت, والله ما حد ساعدني, ليش أنا أساعد الناس؟ لكن أحب الناس إلى الله أنفعهم لعبيده, أنفعهم للناس. وأنا بأمن أمانة وبشهد عليها ربي في كل مكان وفي كل طالب أنا he get match. I get him something to promise me. And this is, I will ask him maybe after our death, maybe when he become a president or become a dean, I will ask him, how many students you help? If you get into one program, you promise me that you will not go for the other. Yani when you finish the program, you will let a new students come after you. This is how we can be successful. To work as a team, everybody has to work with me, students and non-profit organizations. These all bridging, preparations, all the efforts we did, we get result. We did, and I will be proud to say that this is our result. Saudi Arabia be the first Arab country to have the highest ECFMG per nation. It is in 2011 to 149, it is the same, for 145, 150 for the last 3 years. So we get the highest certifications because of our effort and your efforts. And these are the scales that between the acceptance of fellowship, research, and residency. And I like to say to the residents or the one who's doing their residency, local residency, please prepare for USFMG. This will open a lot of doors for you. Illinois can take about that because we are having some problem to get you a proper visa. But if you have ECFMG certification, you have opened a lot of doors for yourself. These are the top specialties that we have in this match. And the thing, this match was a little bit different from the other match last year. We get in first time some Saudi residents in some hospital, in some specialties was never been there. They never have been accepted as Saudi residents. I can tell you some example, I cannot, but we will have published all the list and you can see it in website. We have 2 plastic surgery, 1 in my clinic, 1 in Johns Hopkins. We have general surgery in UC San Diego, she's a female. We have pediatric residents in Cincinnati Children's Hospital for the first time. I'm saying that for the first time. We have Miami Children's Hospital for the first time, Cornell residency prelim for the first time, ophthalmology match, we get 1 match this year. Neuroscience, I promise you, I will try my best to get 1. We are finishing his contract for the next year. Orthopedic fellowship, because he finished the ECFMG, we get him. Interventional radiology. Maryland, we start with the ER, and now we have 4 specialties open for us. first time to get radiology residence and dermatology residence. So thing is promising. And by your efforts, by your hard working, it will, and by inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will get a lot of benefits and we will get a lot of result. This is what I like most. The NRMB, when get this report, you can see Saudi Arabia, I put it in a red line. This red line, that means for the first time, Saudi Arabia is putting in this report, not by others, but by entity, Saudi Arabia. You have to clap your hand for these students. Our feedback for students, when we do all this, we ask the program director, what do you think about our students? How they melt? You can see that they are very happy for our students. They can melt easily. They have a very high social skill and knowledge skill. Our program directors, I ask him, do you recommend us for other programs? Do you recommend us for other hospitals? They said yes, they are very likely to recommend us. These are our success story. ناصر صورتك هنا يا ناصر بالصدفة. طبعا اللي بعتوا لنا الصور احنا بنحط success story, and I like to congratulate them for their efforts and what they did to get their kingdom to be proud of them. At the end, when the NRMB, اللي هي الحكومة الأمريكية الطبية, when NRMB gets you a congratulations, and when they follow somebody like me and they retweet what is the result of the match every year, I think this is needs a high clap or a good clap for Saudi Arabia. All of us love our country, and Kingdom of Saudi Arabia needs a lot of efforts from you, and also our thanks after God to King Abdullah. King Abdullah Scholarship, this is the one who did it.
Thank you, Dr. Samar. Now we'll have Ms. Eleanor Fitzpatrick. As I said earlier, she is the Director of Exchange Visitor Sponsorship Program. Please welcome her.
So, where's my, can I see my slides? My slide? Okay. Excuse me, I'm going to stand over here. Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here, and I have to say this experience has been very enlightening for me, both personally and professionally. I want to just congratulate you and your institutions on the great achievement in your educational programs and the ambition that you have to improve the healthcare of your country and the world. So this panel is going to talk about a lot of acronyms, about a lot of great advice about getting into the U.S. system, and I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit about the role of ECFMG, which is the Educational Commission for Foreign Medical Graduates. If somebody could help me pass these slides. Is it this? Yes. Okay. Great. So I hope to just give you a quick overview of the basic requirements for Saudi graduates to enter U.S. residency training programs. We'll speak about credentialing, the immigration process, and also some of the training requirements. So ECFMG was created by the U.S. academic medical community to regulate the entry of all international medical graduates to enter training in the United States. Now, graduate medical education in the U.S. is highly regulated by many outside organizations, and you're going to hear from the other speakers a lot about that today. ECFMG's signature programs are really that of certification, so the USMLE process for IMGs, the assistance ECFMG provides in the application to residency programs through EROS, and then also on the visa sponsorship side, which I'm directly responsible for those physicians that actually obtain a contract and pursue the entry into the U.S. to participate in training. So we've heard over the last few days the world is flat, and while many 250 now Saudi physicians are in training in the United States, we have over 9,500 physicians from all around the world that are competing with these positions. And as you've heard from earlier today, and you'll hear more about, it's a very competitive selection process. Basically, U.S. graduate medical education continues to be the premier training ground for physicians from around the world. And the models are being replicated here and throughout the world. The U.S. has basically 27 base residency programs. We have a growing number of subspecialty clinical fellowships, and programs are accredited by the Accreditation Council for Graduate Medical Education. Training generally lasts between 3 and 7 years, and graduate medical education is a requirement for licensure and independent practice in most states in the United States, and the time varies. Generally, it's a minimum of 3 years. So when we're talking about graduates from Saudi Arabia, we refer to them in the United States as IMGs, International Medical Graduate. And that is the term that you need to be familiar with in terms of identifying yourself for the residency match. Here's a slide that gives you the timeline for application to residency and entrance. Basically, you're looking at applicants that finish medical school in May and begin residency training as soon as the July after their graduation, and that would be the timeline for the typical U.S. senior graduating medical school. In the case of the Saudi physicians, we see a gap from the graduation to the entry in residency where they complete ECFMG certification. In some cases, they pursue a language program or a Kaplan course to take and to complete certification. The residency positions are applied for and interviews occur in the fall of each year, and you see that from August through basically February, where applicants are applying to the residency, the ERAS program. They're pursuing interviews in the United States, and the match results occur in March each year. So as we heard earlier, some successes were described briefly, that March 17th this year were the match results. Now, as a foreign national, you would be required to apply for a visa to enter, to participate, and to be paid and participate in clinical activities in the United States before you can commence training on July 1. So that becomes another hurdle for foreign nationals that are beginning training. I want to review just briefly the ECFMG certification requirements. There are basically two components. One is verification of your medical school diploma and transcripts directly through a primary source verification with your school, and that occurs with ECFMG only. And then the passing scores in the USMLE Step 1, Step 2K, and Step 2CS. If you're not aware, ECFMG is responsible to administer the clinical skills exam in the United States. ECFMG partners with the National Board of Medical Examiners in administering the clinical skills exam at 6 centers throughout the United States. There are 2 centers in Philadelphia. There's Chicago, Atlanta, Houston, and LA. ECFMG also functions as the Dean's Office for all international medical graduates applying to residency programs. So again, we're working directly with your schools to verify your credentials and to get the letters of recommendations, your transcripts, your medical school credentials uploaded to the program director's workstation for review and consideration by residency programs. ECFMG has a lot of information on their website about ERAS. We have direct advisors available for you, and we worked closely with SACM to offer webinars for applicants in that regard. This year we offered some hands-on training for those that were participating in the George Washington pre-residency program. So we hope to be able to offer that again this year more directly with SACM. So stay tuned for that. This is my area of expertise. Once a physician obtains a contract, they must apply for the appropriate visa. Generally, teaching hospitals utilize the J1 visa for training purposes. International medical graduates may also apply for the H-1B, which is sponsored by the teaching hospital. Oftentimes, we see spouses pursuing residency training together, and a J2, which is the dependent of a J1, would also be eligible to pursue residency training in J2 status. Like graduate medical education, U.S. immigration requires strict compliance with the law, and it requires direct partnership between ECFMG, the teaching hospital, and you, the foreign national physician. It's required that you understand the immigration laws of the United States and that you comply strictly with those. The best advice that I can give you is to work directly with your teaching hospital and the program coordinator. We refer to our liaison as the TPL, or the Training Program Liaison. If you match to a program, you need to meet and be in direct contact with your TPL. Now, basically, ECFMG sponsorship as a J1 requires that you have ECFMG certification and that you have the contract. So you can't apply for the visa until you actually have a letter of offer from the teaching hospital for a specific start and end date. You also must provide a statement of need or a letter of support from your Ministry of Health, and we work closely with SACM to secure those letters in a timely manner. So for quick review, the J1 visa is a temporary non-immigrant visa. It's utilized for educational training only, not employment. You have to evidence that you have strong ties in your home country. So if you do pursue another degree or a research opportunity in the United States, it is important that you return home regularly during that time, and that you be able to evidence that you continue to maintain strong ties with this home country of Saudi Arabia. The maximum duration of training under J1 status is 7 years, and that is for progressive training. In other words, the physician that pursues 5 years of general surgery followed by a subspecialty in, say, a minimally invasive surgery program or a vascular surgery program. Generally, physicians that are pursuing internal medicine or pediatrics would be 3 years plus maybe a 2-year or a 3-year fellowship program. Now, in all cases, J1 physicians are subject to a return home requirement based on the U.S. law. That means before you could apply for any status that would lead to permanent resident in the United States, you would have to return to Saudi Arabia for a minimum of 2 years of employment in your field of study before you would be eligible to apply for any kind of permanent benefit under the immigration law of the United States. Now, it's important to remember that all J1 physicians are tracked by the U.S. government in a database called SEVIS. SEVIS is an interagency database that tracks any foreign national from the time they apply for the visa at the U.S. Embassy abroad. They travel into the United States and throughout the duration of their stay here. Here's a quick slide just on our application process. Please be aware that we sponsor physicians not only for base residency, but also if you've done residency here, you could apply for ECFMG for fellowship training, presuming you have ECFMG certification. We also sponsor for advanced super subspecialties in things like bone marrow transplant, minimally invasive surgery. So if you do pursue residency here, there's also opportunities at the fellowship level. Keep that in mind. Our process is 4 to 6 weeks. It's very streamlined, and we have some examples here of people that can give you some direct recommendations on how to make sure that happens as quickly as possible. Basically, it requires an online application on your end. Again, it's really straightforward. I won't bore you with those details now. Here's a slide on the SEVIS database. Here's a document that you should become familiar with should you come to the United States. This is what's called a DS 2019, and it reflects an electronic record that has been approved for your visa status to enter the United States and remain there. So to wrap up just quickly, what's important if you are a first-time entry coming to the United States, you must be ECFMG certified on day one of your residency training. You can apply for residency programs through the match if you have passed the USMLE exam step 1 and both parts of step 2. But the final verification of your medical school diploma and transcripts must occur and be completed before you can begin training on July 1. Again, you have to have your immigration status in place to begin and to enter the United States and to begin to train with your fellow residents on July 1. What's also critical for any foreign national physician is that you must report to the program on your start date of training. And you also are required to report any change in your training while you're participating in graduate medical education. As you continue to progress through your training, you must renew annually with ECFMG on the visa side. That requires that you have a contract to progress through your training. Again, any change in your plan, if you are required to remediate any rotations, if you take a leave of absence, if you have a maternity leave, if you have any change in the original contract dates or plan, you must report it to your teaching hospital, obviously, and to ECFMG. The last bullet here is very important to understand. Once you enter the United States in J1 status, you are not required to depart and renew annually. If you do want to come home and visit your family, that's terrific, but be aware that if you do so, you will likely have to renew your visa on an annual basis. Okay, so if you have a 3-year contract and it's taken you some time to get that first visa, it's not advisable to travel frequently. You can complete the entire program in J1 status as long as you renew each year with ECFMG. Here's some of just the typical issues that occur during training. Again, I emphasize reporting. Here's some academic considerations to think about when you enter training. Certainly, it's highly competitive, and everyone here wants you to be successful. Once you get in, the challenge is to get in, but also to stay in the program. If you have to do any remediation, that you comply with the program, and you are eligible for up to 12 months of repeat training if necessary. If you're in a prelim surgery, remember that you have to match to categorical in order to continue with your immigration status. So you can't go from prelim surgery back to research. If you have some issues, certainly reach out to ECFMG and get some advice. In most cases, we're looking for applicants that are pursuing the board certification track. We do sponsor for the individual to stay in the United States legally to sit for the board exam. You're going to hear some information about research opportunities. ECFMG will sponsor you to participate in research as long as you're in a clinical track that requires research. You may change your specialty within the first 2 years of your presence in the United States. Again, these are all issues that require you direct advice and recommendations and coordination with ECFMG. Again, I mentioned travel. If you're traveling, it's very important that you coordinate that with your program before you leave the United States. I know that many of these issues are not relevant right now, so I think the takeaway is we're a resource for you. Obviously, there's been a great success rate. In recent years, you can see the increase in number of Saudi physicians that have matched. So from 27 5 years ago to the success of 81 last year, and we're looking at a similar number of 80 or more this year. So again, a high success rate. Here's a list of the specialties, the top specialties of Saudi physicians. You're going to hear a lot about the partnerships that exist and great recommendations about how to apply and what to look out for in terms of selecting your programs. I just want to end by offering ECFMG as a resource to you, that we work very closely with SACM and the residents that are in programs today, and we want to be there for you as you pursue this avenue and this opportunity. So I thank you again and look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Patrick. Now, the time for our next speaker, Dr. Rodney Young. He's the chairman of Family Medicine Department and professor in the department. It was written in the slide, he's associate professor, but he has been promoted to professor. Please, let's welcome Dr. Young, please.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me here to your country. I've really enjoyed my time here with the conference and visiting several of the universities and the hospitals here. I'm going to talk today about some changes that are occurring in graduate medical education in the United States. Things are somewhat different there, and I'll explain to you some of those things as I go along. I guess the first thing is you might want to know why you should take my word for this. The first thing is that I've been doing it for a long time. I've been chairman of a department that's had a residency program for 12 years, and our program has always had a mix of U.S. graduates and international graduates in it. Throughout that time, though, I've also been involved with healthcare workforce planning in the state of Texas through my work with the Texas Medical Association and the Texas Academy of Family Physicians. So we've looked a lot at issues related to GME programs and how people access and enter those. And then finally, I'm going to give you several pieces of information that come from national organizations. I think one of the things that's intimidating enough to U.S. medical students, but also to graduates of foreign medical schools, is this alphabet soup of initials that is involved with the process of entering graduate medical education. I'm going to talk to you about the NRMP, which is the National Resident Matching Program. I have information from the AAMC, the Association of American Medical Colleges, and this entity called COGME, which is the Council on Graduate Medical Education. It is a group that is advisory to Congress and the federal government on policies related to physician workforce planning. And then another entity known as the Robert Graham Center, which does public policy and advocacy for primary care issues. I'll start first with this picture from a year or so ago of several of the students and residents and some faculty that are in our family medicine residency program. I looked through the slide earlier today and I noted that 12 different nations are represented among the group that you see pictured there. So we've been working with folks from international origin for quite some time. So what I'd like to do in this session is help you have a little bit better understanding of how GME is structured in our country. And I'll mention some of the things that have been problematic for us in terms of development of public policy in the U.S. Dr. Alshenberry encouraged me not to bore you to death with a whole bunch of slides about that process. So I'll talk to you about it, I'll glance things, but we won't go into great detail unless you'd like to ask questions about that. And I'm going to explain to you how some of the public policy challenges that we have actually could play into your hand and help you see what it is that program directors in America are looking for when they evaluate applications for candidates. So I guess the place to start is how an American becomes a physician. In our nation, you go to secondary school, you graduate with a high school diploma, and then you enter college. And really, even though most young aspiring Americans have the idea that they'd like to be a physician, the decision isn't really made until you get to the middle or late years of college. So you can major in pretty much anything you want, and in fact, U.S. medical schools kind of encourage and look at diversity and things outside of pure sciences in their candidates to help them be more well-rounded individuals. Medical school itself is going to be 4 years long in the U.S. in addition to the traditionally 4 years of college. So it's about an 8-year cycle. I'm not sure if you're familiar or not with the concept of osteopathic physicians, but there are actually two types of physicians and surgeons that can practice the full spectrum of medicine in the U.S. There's allopathic physicians who have the MD degree, with which we're all familiar, and then there's a group called osteopathic physicians whose degree is DO, that are a minority among the physician group, but an increasing minority who have become a significant portion of the match. And then following medical education, there's, depending on your specialty, between 3 and 7, sometimes a little bit more if you do research, years of specialty training in graduate medical education. And it's only at that point that you become American board eligible, which we define as a practice-ready physician, somebody who can, go out, open the doors, and practice their craft independently. Let's start by talking about the NRMP match. NRMP is a complicated algorithm that involves everybody wanting to go into graduate medical education training, with a few specialty exceptions that have their own match process. Each year, somewhere between 35 and 40,000 candidates participate in that. And of that large group, there's about 2/3 of whom are either current U.S. seniors in medical schools or potentially graduates from a prior year of an accredited U.S. or Canadian medical school. And the remainder of the group are international graduates. Of the international graduate pool, I'll show you here how it's divided. The international graduates are the light green and the lighter blue shade on the right. And that lighter blue shade is U.S. citizens who have gone abroad for their medical education and therefore are classified as U.S. international medical graduates. And then the lighter green shade that you see there, which makes up not quite 1/4 of the pie, those are non-U.S. origin physicians who graduated from international medical schools. So you can see about 60% are U.S. seniors or graduates of a U.S. medical school. I'm from the state of Texas. Texas is one of those states that likes to think of itself as its own country. But I really just illustrate this for you to show you what's been happening in the U.S. over the past decade. About 15 years ago, the Association of American Medical Colleges looked at their physician workforce plans and realized we are not going to have enough physicians to care for our population, so they made an encouragement, set a goal to increase medical school enrollment in the coming years. And since that time, we've actually increased by about 30% in Texas, and other states have had similar increases. So there's an increasing output of physicians from U.S. medical schools. And the much publicized Obamacare law in the United States, which is more properly referred to as the Affordable Care Act, only exacerbates the need for that. There was no such law at the time that they made that projection, but now we're introducing many more covered individuals. I've witnessed this week in discussions with Saudi physicians that all Saudi nationals have access to care in some way that's funded. That's not the case in the United States. For a long time, there have been a large number of individuals who have been on the outside looking in healthcare. So they've deferred or postponed healthcare or just been unable to access it in any way. One of the goals of the Affordable Care Act was to decrease that number, and it'll be politicized in many ways, but it is having an effect of decreasing uninsured as we go through the implementation process. But that creates an exacerbation in our physician shortage issue, so that now we predict that it's about 50% worse of a shortage than we thought it would be. So that's the byproduct of all these new lives that enter. It's also the byproduct of good medicine, that we have helped people live longer lifespans through initiatives in medicine, public health, and in other areas. We have an elderly population that's growing, and then we also have the baby boomer generation, where people returned from World War II, had babies, and those babies are having babies, and more of them are living longer lives. And so we do our best to prevent and manage disease, but even the best prevention can't eliminate certain diseases and can't control for the needs that we have related to all this. Despite that, though, in the United States, we think long and hard about taxes and money and how things are spent. And so in the mid-1990s, in a political climate where they were fed up with spending, they passed an entity called the Balanced Budget Amendment. And that has frozen the funding for graduate medical education at the levels that were in place at that time. So you've seen all these graphs that showed rising need, rising demand, and increase in medical school graduates, but we've not